Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for a bench press day, but a quick reminder for those of you who watch these videos, please remember to click like down below, be greatly appreciated. So today I went with just my traditional bench, pinkies on the rings, nice good pause, ramped up to a training max of 340, so that was 315 there. Which was my first heavy set after, warming up with, up to 225. So we went up to 340 and I got at least a good 2-second pause here. Nice clean rep, obviously, a little slow, but I think that's expected for, a training max because it's moved a little slower than the 315. But got it just fine. It was probably a little slower near the lockout. And I did feel a little bit of triceps on this one, so it's a good thing I'm training them. But I think all this pause bench work is really paying off for me. And I decided I really don't need to be going as heavy as I'm going on this stuff. Again, if I'm getting 2 training maxes a week on all my big lifts, I don't need heavy assistance work. I really don't. So I went with just 225, and I stopped with what felt like 2 reps in reserve, and that was being silly. And I know now it was a little silly. I need to take these reps up because I did most of these with good pauses. So I did 4 sets of 8, and then I went for kind of an AMRAP on the last set just to see where I was. And the last rep really wasn't even a grinder. I stopped at 12. In between, I did pull-ups because I did rows on my other day, and I think that might be the way that I want to mix these up because I'm squatting and deadlifting both. I don't want to have axial loading going into those days. So I think I'm going to stick with the rows and count them as a deadlift accessory. And the pull-ups can be a bench accessory. And then I'm in traction and I'm not having any loading on the spine with any significant weight on my bench days because I'm squatting and deadlifting the next morning each time. So and I stopped there at 3 sets. So people might say, why 3 instead of 5? Well, because I'm rowing. And I think rows, I can probably tolerate a little more volume. I love pull-ups. I just don't want to have overuse happen. And so what I'm focusing on is the dead hang. So, just like I've been messing a little bit with dead hangs, I haven't been the last few days. I think just doing pull-ups from a dead hang, pausing at the bottom from a dead hang, and just working up with a couple reps in reserve and just working on 3 sets. I'm only doing 6 right now at my current body weight, which is not phenomenal. But I guess considering that I weigh, over 220, it's not too bad. But again, I'm also doing them from a dead hang. It's shoulder width, so the range of motion is a little longer. And yeah, for me, that is a dead hang. I'm not going to argue with people about it. It is what it is. Notice I'm coming to a stop. Believe me, I'm not holding back, able to help maintain that position. That's as far as I can stretch down. It's just part of the issue we have. But did 3 sets of that in between my benching. And again, all of these, like I said, this can be funny how reps in reserve can feel sometimes. That's why we sometimes use a last set. Because on top of that, even though I felt like I got really good training stimulus here, it's like, well, how many reps in reserve was I? Because we lose reps sometimes with sets. I got to 5 sets. And on the 5th set, I managed to get 12. Does that mean 12 is my max? I doubt it. Probably not fresh. But still, and I think that's the problem with the whole rep in reserve system when people say, well, you need to be within 5 reps in reserve. Well, we don't have evidence to prove that. Plus, the issue is, what do we know about more advanced lifters? We can generate higher force production in the earlier sets. In other words, we have better neural drive, so we can oftentimes hit upper threshold muscle fibers with a much lower percentage of our 1 rep max than a novice can. So I felt like every rep I got good stimulus all the way through this. Like I feel the first rep at 225 gives a decent stimulus in my pecs. And that's the other question. Why am I switching back over to the little bit more reps? Very simple, a little more pec involvement because I'm going to do separate tricep work. Since I'm training triceps separately, I want all my benching to really, really hammer the chest. So pause work and higher reps are both beneficial for recruiting more muscle fibers in the pectorals. Okay, and this is what will build the foundation of my bench. This will also get me really faster out of the bottom. Okay. And even then we could argue with the JM presses because of the stretch nature at the bottom. It might even carry over to the bottom of the bench, just the extra tricep development that we need. So the bench being a primary and then a JM press is a secondary, both in terms, and even in terms of volume. Because again, I did 5 sets of benching and I got 12 reps right there. Notice that last rep wasn't a grinder, a nice long pause. Then we did the JM presses, and I went a little heavier on these. I take these up to 145. And yeah, I know my elbows come kind of down, and that's okay, as long as I'm lowering the bar to my throat. And I feel like the tricep is doing most of the work. That's what I care about. And doing it this way, it works fine too. It allows me to load more weight on the tricep. And ironically, it does feel easier on the elbows than what some people call the traditional one. Blakely does it. And I've seen, again, some ultra elite benchers still doing it that way. So I think at the end of the day, even if you do the exercise wrong, per Blakely, even what he said in his thing, he goes, look, even if you do this wrong, it's still a pretty damn good exercise. And wrong meaning different from the way he did it. So I'm happy with it overall. And then I did supersets with hammer curls in between. Again, I need the grip training. It's a big part of it with the hammer curl. They work the biceps. We can debate as to whether they work the biceps. I didn't get set up far enough back, so this set was kind of not as good. Ended up hitting those J hooks. Because I find to get these to work right, to miss the J hooks, I pretty much have to slide down as far as I can get on the bench without my butt coming off the edge of it. And in that case, I didn't. I was up a few inches too far. But hammer curls. So why do these? I'm glad you asked. Again, they arguably may hit the biceps just as hard as supine curls, but they're easier on the tendon and they build more forearm and grip. I need the forearm and grip. I know people go, oh, you're pulling over 600 with no grip issues. Your forearms are getting a lot bigger, like they are. But I need to continue that trend because I don't want to just deadlift, 600 or 615. So again, it's beneficial to my grip. So again, useful there and good carryover to my rows and pull-ups, possibly more so than a supine grip. So there's a lot of reasons why I do the hammer curls. And I think they're a great exercise. Do I rotate them out and do supine stuff? Yes, you guys see me do barbell and dumbbell stuff this year already. I like all of them. But I feel like for my overall goals, the hammer curl needs to be in a little more dominant spot. It doesn't mean I can't rotate others in, but I always need to come back to it. And then I finished off just for the tendons because it did feel, they felt a little fatigued. My tendons felt a little rough on those JM presses. Not terrible, but just to make sure that I'm keeping them healthy and blood flow, we did one really high rep set of band press downs to finish off. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.